Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what its position is on whether the reported delay in the publication of the A96 corridor review document 3 months after it was understood to have been provided to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport is acceptable.
Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop.
I received comprehensive advice on the outcomes from the review's appraisal in July 2024 and a hard copy of the review's main transport appraisal report at the end of August. I considered the findings over the following weeks and advised relevant Cabinet Secretaries and the First Minister of my intention to publish the review in draft for consultation. I subsequently met with the First Minister to discuss the contents of the review and discussed it in a full meeting of the Scottish Government's Cabinet in November. I requested a parliamentary statement later the same month, on the 28th of November, in order to advise Parliament of the review's contents and provide an opportunity for members to question and comment on its findings. This timeline represents Government taking an appropriate time to consider a report before presenting it to Parliament. A failure to properly consider a report of this significance would not serve Parliament or the people of the North East of Scotland well. They have a right to expect their Government to be considered and to do things in good order, and that is what I have done, and it is what this Government will always do.
Fergus Ewing.
Well, Presiding Officer, that consideration has extended for no less than 13 years since the pledge was made to dual the A96. And since then, a staggering £89 million has been spent, but not 1 centimetre of tarmac has been laid. So can I ask the Minister to be candid? Will she bring forward, within a reasonable time period of, say, 3 months, a detailed statement setting out precisely when each remaining stage of the procurement of the section between Inverness and Aldern, including the Nairn bypass, will be completed, and when the road itself will be constructed? Will she bring that statement forward within, say, 3 months? Surely that is reasonable.
Cabinet Secretary.
So, with the statutory process for the scheme completed earlier this year, work has commenced to determine the most suitable procurement option, either design or build or mutual investment model for delivering the A96 Inverness to Nairn, including Nairn bypass dualling scheme, and only thereafter a timetable for progress can be set out in line with available budgets. It is a complex exercise. It looks at a number of factors, including how the project can be delivered most efficiently by industry whilst minimising disruption to road users. Now, the decision on the use of mutual investment model for the A96 Inverness to Nairn, including Nairn bypass, would need to be considered alongside the A9, which is what our current proposal is. That will come to conclusion at the end of 2025. We will also consider the delivery options for the adjacent A9, A96 Inches to Smithton scheme, part of the Inverness Highland City Region deal, as part of this work. Now, that is the orderly way to deliver a meaningful timetable. A parliamentary statement does not change that, but I give my commitment to Parliament to ensure that they are aware of the progress and the developments on that vital part, the first part of the dualling process, and I will come back to Parliament to advise of a timetable when I can. Unfortunately, Fergus Ewing's own timetable for my timetable, I think, does not allow us to provide that orderly, considered position which Parliament might expect.
Fergus Ewing.
We're nearly in the 4th year of this session of Parliament. Very little progress has been made. That's a fact, Presiding Officer. If the arguments that we've just heard from the Cabinet Secretary were accurate, then there shouldn't have been a statement on the A9 either, because they're in exactly the same position. So I'm afraid, Cabinet Secretary, my constituents will be deeply depressed by the failure for you today. And I know you take this very seriously, which makes it even more serious, to give the people of Nairn and the North East the truth. Can we not have that, please? And if we don't have it, then I, for one, will find it unacceptable. And it is a red line for me. I cannot betray my constituents, Presiding Officer. That's what my party and the government I used to be part of is demanding that I do. I'm not prepared to do it.
Cabinet Secretary.
So the truth is the dualling of the A96 Inverness to Nairn, including Nairn bypass, has been progressing. In my term as Minister and then Cabinet Secretary for Transport, which is not the full 4 years that he refers to, but in the last 18 months we have seen the completion of the statutory requirements of the made orders. We have seen the provision in budget in order to buy and procure the land, which you'll know as part of that process is part of how we commence the dualling activity itself. And I know he's frustrated. I can feel and understand his frustration. He will also know that the A9 statement and indeed that comprehensive plan for the A9 dualling, when people will see the Tomatin-Tomoy route already seeing the start of the activity to build that part of the A9 was seen as part of an overall package. That package, again, was taken to Cabinet along with the recommendations from the Cabinet Secretary for Finance. So in order to make sure we progress the A96, I am very hopeful and confident that should a mutual investment model be seen as attractive, and that work has already started, it has to complete by the end of this year, then the commitments that he needs in terms of that firm commitment of build, which actually, at the end of the day, is what his constituents will want to see, will be something I will be able to return to Parliament with and to give a full and comprehensive report to.
Brief supplementary, Liam Kerr.
Presiding Officer, it's plainly not acceptable to keep the outcomes of a £6 million taxpayer-funded report secret. So will the Cabinet Secretary apologise to the people of the North East for the delay? How much will the new consultation cost? And will the Cabinet Secretary promise to publish it as soon as the ink is dry, regardless of whether it's good news for the government or not?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, in order to address the member's questions, I would point out that members of his party attacked me for actually publishing the review and the content of the review. He's now saying that I was keeping it secret. How could I have been keeping it secret when I actually published it? I set out the orderly way that collective cabinet responsibility proceeds. He obviously doesn't understand that, which is probably one of the reasons why the Conservatives have no hope of ever forming a cabinet in Scotland.
And Mark Ruskell.
Thank you. This review showed that the cost of dualling the A96 is £5,000 million. That's the equivalent, Presiding Officer, of 200 years of the Scottish Government's road safety budget. If one of the key priorities for the A96 review was about safety, can I ask the Cabinet Secretary, how can a package of measures be agreed now to improve safety that can be delivered quickly and that could include measures like average speed cameras, which have been so successful in reducing casualties on the A9?
Cabinet Secretary, in relation to the substantive question.
Well, the substantive question, I think, is in relation to road safety, and I can assure the member that we actually have a record amount of funding in this year's budget for road safety to address safety, yes, on the A96, but across our our trunk road network. And obviously, if he wants to help support the rollout of more road safety measures, including speed cameras and all the different measures that our partners in local authority, Police Scotland, etc., want to see delivered, then that's part and parcel of what the budget sets out, because we need to tackle road safety, not just on the A96, but across our trunk road network.